There's no advantage to your Marines getting shot to death, is there? Actually, there might be. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the Tactics Focus 40k channel where we're looking to get the best out of our miniatures on the tabletop. Today we're back for another quick tip video focusing on casualty removal and all the advantages that you can gain by choosing which ones of your models unfortunately pass away. Now it's going to be sort of inevitable that you are going to lose some models during the course of a game of Warhammer 40k. It wouldn't be much fun for your opponent if your army of invincible Space Marines walked over the battlefield, murdering the Xenos with no repercussions whatsoever, as glorious as though that might be. I thought I'd talk about a few of the ways that you can get some advantages out of choosing which ones of your models die. We'll go through some of these in order. I'm certain there will be more tricks than this that I have missed, so please comment them down below if you can think of anything else. Firstly, and perhaps most obviously, if some of your Marines in a squad are on an objective, you might seriously think about keeping those ones alive. Just say if you need that objective at the end of the turn, or even if the opponent needs it and they're trying to take it. If you have some objective secured Marines actually sitting on an objective, then they'll actually have to be killed before the enemy can take it with a non-troops unit. Next we have either maximising enemy charges or minimising your own charges. So if an enemy unit, say some Terminators, have come in from reserve next to some of your heavy weapons and they've shot them with some Stormbolters, you might think about taking the models that are closest to those Terminators. As they've come in from reserve, they'll be 9 inches away from your models, so if you pull the first few models that are nearest to them, then you might force them onto maybe a 10 or even 11 inch charge, or possibly even have so many Marines die that the Terminators can't even make the charge at all. Now this has the potential to be game changing, as it could stop a bunch of fighty models from killing a lot of your Marines and then maybe consolidating into some of your other squads and tying them up. Conversely, if you have a really tooled up melee unit and it's a big unit on the battlefield, you might think about keeping the models that are nearest to the enemy for your next turn. Say if you kept the front Marine alive out of a squad of 5 Marines, he might just be able to make that charge and tie up that key heavy weapon unit. So it's a way of ensuring that he has the most mobility possible. Third, we have cover and line of sight blocking considerations. Say you have a bunch of Marines that are partly in cover but partly not. The unit will only actually gain the advantage of cover if every model is actually in cover, so you may as well start killing off the models that are outside cover first while they have bad saves. I think about quickly rolling these one at a time until all of the Marines outside cover are dead, and then you can take the rest of the saves on the Marines that are in cover with a boosted save. This is how it works, and you don't have to take all of the saves in one go, because in the rulebook the damage done by attacks is done one by one. It doesn't have to be done all at once. So by gaining yourself a cover save, you might let some of the rest of the squad survive when they otherwise might not have. Even more powerfully than this is if you have a unit that is partly in line of sight and partly out of line of sight. Say you have one Space Marine who's just outside cover and the enemy can see him, and then you have another 9 Space Marines that are all hidden behind a ruined wall and can't be seen by any of the enemy. If, say, an enemy unit shoots and kills one of your Marines, you'd seriously want to consider taking the one that can be seen out, so the rest of the enemy army won't be able to shoot that squad. This could be so powerful that it might be worth re-rolling a past saving throw for the model that's outside cover to ensure he dies and to ensure the rest of the important squad is immune to enemy firepower for that turn. It would surprise an enemy quite a lot if they shoot at it with just some of their weaker guns, kill that crucial Marine, and then some of their really heavy weapons can't even fire at all because they can't see the squad. That could be hilariously powerful and very frustrating for them. Next we have in the combat phase, where you can kill models to avoid being wrapped by another enemy unit. So if you're suspecting a huge mob of orc boys is thinking about getting 3 models around one of your individual Marines and tri-pointing it, then your squad won't be able to fall back and they'll have to stay in combat with the boys, thereby preventing your heavy weapons from laying into the squad. If you take out the models that are closest to the boys, then there's a good chance they won't be able to make the distance needed to completely encircle one of your models, and if you can avoid being wrapped by them, then you'll be able to kill them in the next turn. That could be very useful. Next up we have screening for other units, so say if you have a line of infantry screening for a character, then you might want to keep the ones that are in front of the character to stop the enemy shooting it. Also, if you have an enemy unit that wants to be charging, say, one of your tanks, then you might think about keeping a line of infantry in front of the tank to make that charge completely impossible for the enemy unit. If the model's base can't fit between two of your units and it doesn't have the fly keyword, then it won't be able to charge the squishy tank that it actually wants to charge behind it. When you're removing all these models, you do have to bear some consideration for leadership upgrades and squad upgrades that are hidden within the squad. For example, you'd want to think about trying not to pull out the expensive las cannon that you've brought, even if it is the model that's not on an objective, and you'd want to avoid killing the sergeant off if possible, so it's best to make these positioned optimally in your unit so you don't want to remove them. If you take heavy casualties in a squad, then you'd have to seriously think about, is the squad going to run away to morale? And in some cases it might be worth just keeping the sergeant alive to have a greater chance of the sergeant not running away and some of the special weapons to die, because without the sergeant they might well have run away anyway. Different defensive profiles within a squad can be incredibly helpful for maximising your survivability. For example, Deathwatch squads can have some Marines with Storm Shields and some Marines that are Terminators, so you could take the AP nothing shots on Terminators so they get their sweet 2-up save, and you could take the las cannon shots on Storm Shields to maximise the chance of just completely ignoring the massive las cannon shots that might one-shot a Terminator. That can be very useful. The only thing to bear in mind with is that a model that's taken a wound must be the next one to take a save, so if say your Terminator takes 1 wound to a las gun on an unlucky 1, then you'd have to take any further hits on that Terminator until it is dead. This can apply to Marines in some cases, particularly say Storm Shields hidden in squads like veteran squads, or things like attack bikes hidden in bike squads. There's some possibility for some shenanigans here. And finally, out of this brief list is the benefit of auras and defensive benefits. So if you have, say, a squad that wants to be in a Chapter Master's aura to have boosted Overwatch in the charge phase, then you might want to keep one Marine alive who is in range of the Chapter Master's aura. The other way around, however, if you have, say, a Company Ancient that gives you a nice bonus when the Marines die, because they might get to shoot their weapon again, you'll think about pulling the Marines that are actually inside that aura rather than the ones that are outside. Most auras happen on a squad by squad basis, but the Ancient's aura is an example of one that happens on a model by model basis, so it's important that you think about positioning the guns that you really want to fire when the model dies inside his aura. The last thing I'll say is that larger units can give you much more power with this, and is genuinely one of the better aspects of taking large squads, although there are numerous disadvantages. If, say, you take a 10-man squad of Space Marines, then you can spread them out over quite a large area. Say you could have them screening your front line, and you could choose to keep the ones alive that are best in place to screen an enemy charge if the enemy gets close. Or you could keep ones that are just on an objective, or ones that are just in a Chapter Master's aura, or focus on keeping the ones alive that are in cover, depending on what situation happens. It's for this reason that big 30-man squads in other armies, such as, say, Plague Bearers, have a lot of power with this. They could spread out massively so they're both within character auras, on multiple objectives, and screening a large portion of the front line. And then the Chaos player could choose whether or not they most needed the character bonus, most needed the objective, or most needed the screen intact when the unit gets very depleted. Like I said, I'm sure there'll be other examples of how casualty removal can be used to further your ends. Feel free to let me know down in the comments if there's anything obvious that I missed, and feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics for further episodes like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.